Hey everyone, and welcome to the Grumpy Dads. Hi, Chris.
Hello, Duncan. Yeah, this week we've got no guest. We've got so much on that it's not that we forgot, it's just that we've got a Halloween party to plan, we've got the game show coming up, and we've also got the guest for next week. So we thought, rather than taking a week off stupidly, we'd come on and talk. And the subject we are going to talk about is something that I think everybody loves, which is Netflix. Duncan, you're a big Netflix fan.
I am a big Netflix. Only recently. It's taken me a while to cotton on to Netflix, really. It's since discovering, what, I could just watch this on my phone in bed at night. There's a lot of good comedy shows on there, but I've got a real addiction to true crime. I'm not sure if it's just that I'm sick. If I like to say it's because I'm fascinated by the human mind and what people are capable of, but it could just be that I'm hoping to get some tips. So if I really do have to take it to somebody one day, I know what to do. I know how to get away with it.
Yeah, at least you can pull it off, and then you've got all of that on the table. So you've got all the tips and hints, and you can get away with it. It's nice and fun. What's your favourite one? I mean, for me, true crime. I haven't watched a lot, but one of the ones I have watched is Mindhunter. It is so good. It was one of those ones, and I don't know if you've ever been in the situation before where you watch it. I think the kids call it binge watching, but you should be going to sleep, but you can't do one more episode, and then you get to a stage where it's really late, and you think, well, I might as well watch one more episode because it's that late now, so it doesn't matter.
The things you go through in your head to justify just another 5 minutes, another hour, I'll be fine.
Yeah, just balance it out. It's what's 45 minutes or 3 hours? It doesn't matter how much sleep I get at this point, does it? So as long as I close my eyes at some point. And then you wake up with the screen saying, do you wish to continue watching? And your eyes are as heavy as ton weights. So what do you think the fascination is with true crime? And I guess it goes for like the violent shows as well, because I'm a big fan of the violent shows like Spartacus, American Horror Stories. I want to say Ratchet, but I wasn't a big fan of that. But what do you think the draw is?
For me, it genuinely is. The human mind fascinates me, and it always has. I've always been drawn to, I used to read a lot of books, true crime books, talking about different killers. And I think it started with, I watched an interview with Ted Bundy on the night before he was executed. It sort of engaged me somehow. He seemed so rational, and yet his actions were so irrational and so he seemed so controlled as well. He was very considerate. And then you got this whole side where he was completely out of control. He had no self-control at all, to the point that, he committed these horrific murders. And it was like, it really sort of cottoned me onto this thing. And I've ended up sort of reading a lot about serial killers and stuff. And then I sort of stumbled onto the Zodiac, but reading books on the Zodiac and who he is, because this one's the sort of big unsolved.
Did you say unsolved?
Unsolved, yeah. They don't know who the Zodiac is.
So you've just spoiled the movie for me.
No.
You better not have, because I'm going to be watching it tonight.
I haven't spoiled the film for you, I promise you.
Okay, carry on.
Anyone who watches the film who knows anything about knows that they have a sort of...
Don't spoil it.
The film does some stuff with it, so it's cool.
Okay.
You'll get some closure on it. Then you got this sort of the Golden State Killer, and I know they're not on Netflix, but there's some series on like Sky Crime and stuff like that where they've looked into that. And he's fascinating because they caught him after decades because his nephew or his son, I can't remember, I think it was his son, did an Ancestry.com DNA test in the States. And from the DNA that his son sent in, they were able to say, he's related to the killer from DNA samples.
Really?
Held him. He's only been in the last couple of years. They got him.
That's crazy. It also raises some questions about the ancestry sites as well, because you signed up for that.
I don't think the US police had sort of given away that they were using this tactic. It must have been quite a surprise. They always say, don't you, like you see those TV shows like, who do you think you are? Turns out your father's a Golden State Killer. Oh,
How do you react to that?
yeah.
I think the fascination, it's certainly for me, and I'm trying not to come across as odd or anything here, is it's basically, like I say, because I do like true crime, but I prefer the action, violence. I said Spartacus for me is one of my favourite TV series. It's the fact that you're safe, but you're able to watch the violence. You're almost in this protected bubble, so you can watch exactly what's going on.
Yeah, horror doesn't do anything for me. I think it doesn't. I don't get scared by it, so it doesn't hold that thrill in there for me. I just sort of my mind's just too much of, well, that's not real, is it? I know, and I can't do that willing suspension of disbelief in order to enjoy the film for being a scare or whatever.
It's never scared you.
No, I mean, when I was a kid, yeah. When I was young, horror terrified. Even the thought of watching horror somehow terrified me. I remember watching some Nightmare on Elm Street when I was a teenager. You know, the old, you're at your mate's house and you pull it out and everyone's like, oh. I'm thinking, what the hell is this? Oh, please, just something happen.
I think with horrors, they do scare the living shit out of me. I can't watch too many horrors. It's just horrible. The thing is, I think you have to have a really overactive, almost your mind is your enemy imagination. So I'll go the toilet at say 3 a.m. and then on the way back I'll end up running to bed because I think there's something behind me. There was one time where I did just that, and as I was walking back, because the wife was on a night shift, I'd left the Hoover out and I had to walk past it, but it was kind of dark and I was dazed, and as I'm walking past it, of course it's sort of about 3 foot high and it looked like someone standing there like a little child. It had the handle and it was right in the corner, and I don't know how I didn't have a heart attack. I don't think I got back to sleep that night. It was horrible. Your throat and your stomach and your chest, and the adrenaline that flowed through me. It was unbelievable. I do occasionally enjoy horrors, but it has to have a storyline or something attached to it for me to really take it in.
I remember watching Aliens when I must have been 18 or 19. It was the first, when I just moved out of home.
Yeah.
Mate, Dave, who we watched Aliens, and Dave was one of the funniest guys I've ever known, but he was like, horror just terrified him. We were watching Aliens, which I don't even really consider a horror, but it's thrilling, I guess. It's got that sort of tension to it.
Yeah, and it's also your own mind that kind of fills in the blanks, which I think is very clever in places. But
you know, because I mean, that's what was so special about Jaws, was the shark didn't work to not show as much of the shark as he wanted, and it made the film that much better because your mind was filling in the blanks. You just saw bits of the shark, and your mind built the rest.
Yeah.
That's why Seven was so scary. Going back to David Fincher,
yeah.
Like Seven was a film that really messed with my head when I watched that the first time, and it was partly because you never saw the violence, you saw the aftermath, and then they sort of piece it together so that in your head it's going like, and you realise, you know, like the guy in the brothel and what he did. It was just like, whoa, hang on, no, that's just wrong. So much worse for being, you don't see it. You're forced to build that picture in your head. That's a mind fuck, that film, it really is.
But I think the king of filling in the blanks and making the one that really scared me, the Blair Witch, and that messed me up. That completely messed me up.
I sort of went in that knowing it wasn't real, and again that whole thing of knowing it was set up, it was a bit sort of, but I know that people were scared out of their skulls by that, because initially it was sort of a found footage and they hadn't said that it was faked, and so people were watching it really truly like, what is this, you know?
Well, it was something like 70,000 that it cost to make, and the marketing budget was $1 million. I'm not entirely sure how much it actually made at the box office, but it was a hell of a lot.
it made it, I mean, compared to what it cost them to make, it absolutely romped it in.
The thing with it is that you never saw the witch. It was
No.
all the noises. It was things that were left behind. It was especially that end scene, which was just that. I mean, it's obviously faded in my mind a lot now, but I remember seeing it and then seeing the guy in the corner, and you just your head has just done all the work for the filmmaker, and you're left sort of scared out of your wits. I remember running home because my mate, his mum picked us up, and they dropped me at the end of my road, and it was pitch black. I remember walking along, and there was trees in this like centre bit, and it was quite windy as well. And I remember just running as fast as I could to my front door, and then I was so grateful that I made it. But just in my head, it's just replaying all those pictures that Blair Witch is going to get me. It was horrific.
I remember seeing it's like a making of it and stuff, or interviews with people who were in it for some reason. Maybe we got the DVD or something and it had it special. But they were saying that when they filmed it, they didn't tell the people what were happening. And so the reactions were actually very real, because they did
sleep deprivation.
The whole thing did take on a much more realistic edge, simply because of the way that
it was very clever, wasn't it?
Really cleverly done.
In terms of Netflix, have you ever come across anything that you had high expectations for and it kind of tanked?
I tried to get into Orange is the New Black, and that really, I'll tell you what I did have high expectations for, was when Netflix picked up Arrested Development.
I knew it was going to be that.
Like, I loved the first 3 seasons of that.
Yeah.
And I didn't hate the 4th season that they put on Netflix. I just didn't love it in the same way. They couldn't get all the people together at the same time, so it didn't have that sort of family dynamic and them bouncing each other so much. I do think that the first 3 series wrapped up so neatly.
Yeah.
It didn't need to be taken further, and sometimes you've got to be able to sort of step back and go, yeah.
It was a shame, because I had the same feel. I just thought it was absolutely perfect, from the writing to how they acted to how they cast the characters as well.
The casting
everybody just fit. It just, when you thought of those characters, the actors were those characters, and it was so well fitting. All the writing that they did and the comedic timing.
I agree with you. The casting was perfect. You can't imagine anybody else playing any of those characters.
Yeah.
The writing in it, they were setting up jokes for season 3 in season 1.
Yeah.
They had things like, the hand kept sort of cropping up.
Yeah.
Random throwaway lines. I never thought I'd miss a hand so much with the hand share. And then the next season, that comes to play. And it's like, and you watch it back and you realise that all these jokes are being set up so early on. And they're funnier when you go back and watch the original episodes, because you realise they were setting all this stuff up. And I just think it's geniusly written, absolutely geniusly written.
Well, it's Buster as well. I always forget about Buster, but these people have all gone on to have really, really successful careers. It just worked, didn't it? It just worked. And I don't think I've ever come across a comedy. Well, there's 2 I can think of, actually. First one is The Office, the US. And the second one is Parks and Recreational. And when they get that casting right, when they all work together, and there's just a magic where it seems effortless, and it's such a good watch as well, because I love those ones that you can laugh along with it. And they know as well, the comedic timing, they know that's when the punchline is, that's when they need to bring out a physical humour along with what they're saying. And all 3 shows did that really well.
And I had IT Crowd into that, the British IT Crowd.
Yes, I do love that.
Another one where the casting, you couldn't put anybody else in any of those roles. Richard Ayoade is, and Matt Berry is the boss. The whole sort of.
But he wasn't the original. His dad. He wasn't the original, because he was the son, wasn't he?
He was the son, and the father. One of my favourite parts of that was the note in the drawer that says, "I kept this revolver in case I ever needed to shoot myself, but as you know, I jumped out of a window."
Yes, but Matt Berry's I'm a massive fan of his.
I love Matt Berry.
Toast London, What We Do in the Shadows, IT Crowd. I'm trying to think what else he's been in.
On Netflix, you've got the Matt Groening show. Is it Disenchanted? I think.
Oh yeah, I was looking at that. Yeah, I've watched season 1 of that, but I just
that is just brilliant, and he's so again. You couldn't put Matt Berry, anybody else but Matt Berry as that guy. He shares with Job from Arrested Development that ridiculous overconfidence when he really shouldn't be.
Yes, yeah.
Job in Arrested Development was just so cocky and arrogant and overconfident with everything when he was really just such an idiot. But I mean, I can't listen to the Final Countdown anymore.
I mean, the one that I was going to slay, but I think it's just unfair that I do because I haven't watched it. I've only watched the trailer. Emily in Paris. It's not for me, and I'm not going to slay it because I haven't seen it. I know I wouldn't enjoy it, so I actively avoid it. So it's just one of those things. It seems like Sex and the City with a young woman who goes to Paris and fashion and all this sort of stuff. Just not my cup of tea.
I think we're the wrong gender possibly for those kind of shows.
Yeah, there is a chance of that. So yeah, I'm going to avoid it just to be safe. The one I was really, really disappointed in was Enola Holmes, the movie. The thing is that I'm a huge Sherlock Holmes fan. When I saw the trailer for this, obviously it had the actress from Stranger Things, and it had a great cast in it, and I thought to myself, this is going to be good. Because Enola Holmes, I don't know if anybody knows, is actually the smartest person in the whole Sherlock universe. She's smarter than her brother, she's smarter than Moriarty, she is the smartest character in the books. She has the highest IQ. So I thought to myself, this movie is going to be fantastic. They're really, really going to showcase how good she is. And it didn't. It was just this little girl who met a boy. I mean, there was a couple of teasers where you kind of like, yeah, that's smart. That's very smart. But it never really delved into, it never showed that she had this huge IQ. It showcased, because Sherlock, he was in it a little bit, but it showcased his skills, which are fine, but it never actually showcased Enola's skills, and it was such a letdown. I mean, there was people that enjoyed it, but
anything in the Sherlock Holmes universe, if you like, though, they either nail it or you're just left really just numb by it. Because I remember, like, because I love the Sherlock series, the BBC Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock Holmes. Absolutely fantastically written, so inventive. It was years ahead of its time in the way it was using visuals to sort of back up with like text being sort of shown in certain. It was so cleverly done. And it was about the same time they released the Guy Ritchie Sherlock film, and it was
Robert Downey Jr., wasn't it?
And Jude Law as. Yeah. I'm thinking, oh, this would be great. And I love Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch and all those films. It's like, yeah, okay, this could be really good. And I fell asleep in that film. I thought it was awful. And they went down this weird sort of spiritual route with it, and it just kind of.
You need to watch it. I'm not going to spoil it if you are going to watch it, but it is a really good movie, and then leads to the second one. I think you'd watch the BBC one. That's your Sherlock, and somebody comes along and tries to portray it a slightly different way.
I've liked a lot of different iterations of Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah,
I remember watching the Hound of the Baskervilles as a kid with my mum.
Oh right, okay.
Why she let me watch it? It was one of those sort of, oh okay. Yeah, I loved it. And it probably taps into that whole sort of true crime thing for me, the deduction of how they get these people. Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't. I didn't buy into the Guy Ritchie. Maybe I just do need to watch it again. But I remember watching the second one, thinking, I'm sure they've learned from the mistakes, and thinking, no.
Oh, you've watched the second one?
Yeah, I watched the second one.
I don't think you're going to get along with these movies, though.
Which is sad, because I love Guy Ritchie films, but maybe I just need to. It might have been the company I was with. It was with my wife, and she hated it. And when my wife hates a film, you know she hates the film all the way through the film. You know she hates the film.
How do you know she hates the film?
Well, she'll vocalise it quite readily and frequently.
You don't get to watch it either.
No.
Are you ready to get this podcast cancelled with my next show that I'm going to say I'm disappointed with. Full disclosure, with everybody that knows me and knows I'm nice and everything, it is just an opinion. But I am really, really disappointed in Star Trek Discovery. It's not that I hate it, because I've watched the first season. Third season came out, and I was kind of halfway through season 2, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to go back and I'll watch the recaps and I'll pick up and go into season 3. Started to realise why I stopped watching it. And it's amazing that because it's so diverse now, it's multicultural. The thing is with Star Trek, if you look at the adaptions that it's had over the years, I firmly believe that the creators, depending on what society we've got at the moment, they pick out the best of what we've got. They pick out the best of humanity's aspects. And what they do is they kind of make it into the future based on where we're at. And that's what it does. But then obviously today's adaptation and then dragging the best of we've got into Discovery, it just doesn't play well with me. It's not Star Trek for me. And I do feel bad because I really, really I'm a big Star Trek fan and I really, really wanted to like it. Yeah. But I can't switch off what I'm used to with the previous Star Treks.
Have you watched Picard?
Not the new one. I'm dying to watch it.
That did impress me. I mean, that's obviously Amazon Prime, but I loved that show. It's a bit slower and a bit more considered, but I actually think that's good. It's also a lot more sort of, there's a edginess to it almost. The production quality is astonishing. Just it is movie quality in all the special effects. And
I think that's what they're doing now, because in Discovery, you've got an amazing cast, absolutely amazing. The acting is brilliant. The production quality is just, it matches the movies they made. It really is that good. The writing, it's just kind of all over the place. And then I think I'm used to, you know, when Star Trek used to be episode, something had happened, they'd save the day or solve the problem or do something. Next week, a planet is going to get burned by a sun. Let's put a weird tractor beam and pull it away and do something. It used to be a problem solving each week, and I used to really enjoy it. On occasion, they'd run it over 2 or 3 episodes when they had this big storyline, which was fine. But this one is kind of like, here's your storyline. It's lasting the entire season.
But that's partly because I think the way TV is being consumed now is different, or you binge watch now. So people will watch 6 episodes in an afternoon, evening. So they get the complete storyline in one big whack. I like shows like Arrested Development is probably a good example. There's an overall story arc, but each episode has its own character and plot within the episode as well.
You had 2 though, didn't you, with Arrested Development? Because you had that over story arc, but each episode kind of had its own theme, but was with the arc, which was really, really clever.
You had the episode story arc, which there was always a beginning, middle, and an end to.
Yeah.
You had the season story arc, which always had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And you had the 3-season story arc, which had a beginning, a middle, and an end as well. It all worked together. So again, that's the brilliance of the initial writing, I think. But I remember watching years ago as the Battlestar Galactica.
I love that. It's one of my favourite.
One of the most amazing series.
Yeah.
They did that well because that could have been written for any scenario. It didn't have to be spaceships in a star battle. That could have been warships in World War II.
It literally could have been anything at all.
It was a political drama.
Yes.
In the clothing of a science fiction show, and it was just so well done. There's so many shows that kind of lose that quality, and the irony is lost it. In the first couple of seasons of Lost was so, like, you were hanging on to every moment. I remember going back and you look for the little clues, and everyone would talk about it, and we come up with our theories of everything that goes on, and then it was sort of, it got to the conclusion, and it was just like, what everyone had sort of guessed to start with, and they went, no. So everyone, spoiler alert, everyone had guessed that they're dead, and this is just like purgatory. Oh no, that's not it. And then, actually, it was it. We couldn't tell you.
Threw you off. We didn't want to tell you and spoil it.
A mate of mine and myself came up with a great alternative synopsis to that, because we thought we cracked it. We thought it was a group therapy session. So they're in a psychiatric ward, because they kept going back to the doctor who had the picture of the island on his wall.
Yes.
Burley was in there and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We came up with the idea that they were all in like a group hallucination, like an induced story, that electrodes in their head or something, but they're all part of the same hallucination. And as each of them was cured, so because you sort of find they resolve their issues, then they get killed off.
That's a very interesting theory.
There was so much to support it, and I think it would have been so much better than what they actually had. It was, I was disappointed that we come up with something we thought was really quite good. It was.
Has a show ever done that? Because you see this on plenty of message boards and fan sites and all these, and then you hear it with, especially the huge ones like Star Wars and Walking Dead, Game of Thrones. You see it on all these message boards, and they go into such intricate detail of a hidden meaning, and it never is. It's always something simple. And they will find evidence, and they'll go, what was this? And they'll pause it and look, for 1/100th of a second, you saw this. What does this mean? And Jar Jar Binks was actually a Sith Lord, and all this other stuff. And it's kind of like, when you're going to learn? The writers are not going that deep. If they wanted to go, it's a waste of their time. They aren't going to go that deep for you to figure out some Illuminati thing hidden within the story. They sit there, they write. Obviously, it goes and plays out. They aren't hiding anything inside.
It's really interesting. It's really cool to get in that stuff. The X-Files did it way back in the day. That was just...
Yes.
You used to sort of trawl through, and every now and again they'd have one of the bigger story arc episodes of the whole sort of the smoking cancer man and all that kind of stuff. And they played that so well because you were looking for the bigger picture. And again, I think when something's built up so much, it's almost impossible to deliver on it.
Yes, yeah. So many have let, certainly me down, but all the viewers down. There's so many out there where you've watched it. You've got Lost, Sopranos. The list is endless of how many that they built it up and gone, is that it? What is your all-time favourite Netflix show?
At the moment, I've been watching Modern Family, which I know isn't a Netflix original, but I got onto Modern Family really late. It appeared to be too much of a sort of Brady Bunch type thing, Full House. It just didn't pick my fancy at all.
Yeah.
Somebody said, no, you've got to watch it and give it a couple episodes. And I'm addicted to it. I'm watching it every night as I go to sleep on the phone. And I love it. It is really funny, very cleverly written, and you do warm to the characters. And it's funnily enough, I find this with a lot of things. It's always the more background characters that I really start to love.
Yes.
The sort of secondary characters, if you like, so there's a kid in it called Manny, and he's this sort of early teens, just coming in, but he drinks his espressos, and he's like a proper Lothario sort of Hugh Hefner style, sort of in his head, not in reality. It's just really well done, and that you really warm to the characters, and I love that. It's like, it goes back to, do you ever watch Cheers?
I've watched a few episodes.
Again, it was the secondary characters that really made that show for me.
Yeah.
Norm, the big guy who was always in the same seat in the bar and stuff. And they just played on his character so well through it. And it was always the ones that weren't him focused episodes that I liked best. There was one where him and Cliff, the guy, the postman guy, who was like his best mate, in the background, they spent the whole time, the psychiatrist, Fraser's wife in the show, had brought in this rat tester. And
Right.
You push one, it gives you a peanut. You push one, it gets nothing. You push the other, it gives you an electric shock.
Right.
Well, okay, I got a peanut. And the rest of the episode is just in the background. It's never part of the show. In the background is them trying to play with this thing and keep getting shots and getting more and more frustrated. It's like a Woody Allen movie. It sort of plays out with this stuff. It's just brilliantly done. Another show that does that is Community.
Oh yes, yeah. I have got into it a little bit. I think I'm on the second season, but the reason, because I really wanted to get into it and I hated the initial character. I can't remember his name, but it was only until I watched the interview part of Tiger King, you know, that edition they did.
Yeah.
And I thought, I recognise that guy, but I don't know where from. And he was quite funny, and he asked these funny questions, and I was kind of like, where do I recognise it from? And that's when I went back to Community, because I was like, oh, actually, this guy's all right. And it was okay. One of the, I don't know if you've seen it before, It's Only Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yes, Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
It's incredible. I mean, it isn't the most impressive for me. I'm a massive fan of it. I think it just breaks down the walls. It's capitalizing on, we're a show, nothing's real. We're going to say the most offensive stuff we can, but we're not taking any flack for it, because it's just a show. It's just a show. These are the characters we've created. We know they're bad, but this is just a show. And I think it's great that they've made it bulletproof like that. And obviously Danny DeVito in there as well.
He was such a surprise when he came into it to me. It was like, whoa, hang on, that's Danny DeVito.
Yes.
It was. But I like that he's gone back to play. He went for a long while playing these sort of sympathetic characters in movies.
He was kind of the used car salesman at first, and then it kind of, he's built his way up, and then he's playing this disgusting sort of troll of a man in Sunny, which is great, bringing out his gun when he's on the toilet and stuff, and he's just completely a genius in the business world, but just disgusting in every way. That role was made for him. But the most impressive show that I've ever seen, taking into account the acting, the directing, the writing, the one that, like I said, when I've binge watched, I've stayed up nearly all night, is Breaking Bad. It's not very often that I will watch a show and I will go, that the directing in this, the locations, what they've done is just good. It's drop dead gorgeous. Everything about it is just genius on every level. Obviously, the writing is fantastic. The actors are fantastic. But when you see these gorgeous locations and the camera work, and you actually notice it, it was so good, and I just could not stop watching. It also wins the award for most annoying character with his wife Skylar as well. To get you feeling all of these things that you kind of want Walter White to succeed and Jesse to do well, his wife is a bitch and you just want her to, I don't know, get killed off or something. It's a sign of a good show, because it's bringing out all of these emotions. And even for comedies as well, isn't it? If you're laughing and you're watching, and it's a sign of a good show that it's bringing out emotions in you, isn't it?
The best shows are the ones that, even if they're not a likable character, you like them regardless. A really surprising Netflix show that I got onto that I wasn't expecting to really enjoy was Jessica Jones. And that was all down to David Tennant.
Yes, it was. Yes.
When he plays these evil characters, he's almost too convincing with it. He's so in there, and he carries that sort of smug malevolence about it.
He can pull it off, though, can't he? He's almost built to be the bad guy, and a clever bad guy at the same time. He can go dark, and he's such a great actor that he can just twist himself into this evil, smart, and amazing character that you kind of want to hate, but you're kind of impressed at the same time. It's fantastic.
And he does it for both sides, though. Like when he plays the good guy, when he was Doctor Who, he was Doctor Who. He's the only Doctor Who in history, I think, that hasn't been typecast since. You look at shows that he was in, like, did you ever see What We Did in Our Holiday?
No, I haven't.
So, you know the show Outnumbered, the TV?
Yes.
The two writer-directors from that did a film with Billy Connolly and David Tennant. But he plays this sort of dad in it that they're pretending, him and his wife are pretending they haven't split up because Billy Connolly, his dad, is dying and they don't want him to know that they split up, let him pass with the, you know, the illusion or whatever. But it's just so well played out. And you just, again, you love his character. Broadchurch, he plays this surly, kind of depressing, broken man, and he nails it. The other week we watched Des. We did a thing, we were watching the follow-up, the true crime documentary that he narrated on the actual killer, and they showed some clips of the interviews with the killer, with the real Des.
Yeah.
And you think, whoa, that was exactly how he played it. Like, right down to the facial expressions and the intonation that he used. Like, he just absorbs his character somehow and portrays him. I think he's one of the best actors we've seen in a long time, and he doesn't, I don't think he gets enough credit for it.
I don't think he's really picked up that role where it's almost, it breaks down all the walls on his career. Like, you can look at like Daniel Day-Lewis or Leonardo DiCaprio, and you look at these guys, and they've had that pinnacle couple of movies, and then that's it for them. But you had many of these movies, like Armageddon, Pearl Harbor.
Anything Michael Bay's directed, basically.
Slow motion and fireworks. Just stop. Stop making Transformers movies.
Transformers should be awesome, and it's not.
I mean, the first movie, I was kind of, I watched it and I was like, wow, the effects, that's amazing. That's great. Then he does a second movie and it's kind of like, I've seen this before. I sure have. And then the third, then the fourth, then the fifth. And it's sort of like, just stop now. Just stop. I've been to enough firework shows. I don't care if you're doing robot dinosaurs. It's odd. Stop it.
Have you ever seen, they're on YouTube, there's a bunch of them, like Michael Bay directs, and there's like a classic version of a classic film, and they've done it with Michael Bay's take on it. I think it was Lord of the Rings, there's one, and it's just like every time something touches it explodes. It's just really overdone. I think there might have been a Titanic one, Michael Bay does Titanic, and it's the same sort of. There's just a whole bunch of them. You can Google them. They are just the funniest things because it just nails it. All he has to do is everything has to be exploded. And what's this thing with not being able to finish a damn film? Bad Boys 2.
I'm trying to remember what happened in Bad Boys 2.
Such a cheesy film anyway. But you had the basic wrap-up thing, but then it turns out the sister's been kidnapped.
Oh, yes, yeah.
A whole other hour that follows where they go in. And it's got the worst line in movie history.
Go on.
I see you're about to do something stupid. I'm in.
Yeah.
Only Arnie can get away with lines that bad.
Again, Bad Boys 1. It's one of my favourite movies.
Love it.
One film. He needs one film. Don't do any sequels. Stop it, because you ruin them. Okay, so yeah, The Rock, Bad Boys, Transformers. If you'd have just done those films on their own, you'd be like, you know what, Michael Bay's all right.
Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. I hope you enjoyed our little delve into Netflix and the burgeoning universes of all these different TV series and films. We'd love to hear your comments. If you like Bad Boys 2, tell us about it. We'll slay you for it, but we want to hear. If you're a Star Trek Discovery fan and you want to roast Chris alive, he's waiting for it. You'll go even redder. And yeah, please do like this, comment, please subscribe. We'll see you next week, back with some more guests.